So, are you struggling with overwhelm and trying to multitask and get everything done? And how are you prioritizing and all that stuff? You're going to want to listen to this because I'm going to share some revolutionary ways of approaching time management, multitasking, prioritization, and overwhelm. This is something that's very common that people deal with, and there are multiple levels or layers to the challenge. It's not just a matter of prioritization itself, it's a matter of why prioritization kind of can go wrong and how to fix that. So, um, what's up? I'm Deborah, and happy Wednesday to you. And I'm a maverick, and I help other mavericks and disruptors to be able to overcome overwhelm, burnout, all those kinds of things, to be able to create the business, the life that can create the impact that they are here to make. And all disruptors have the capacity and the potential to be impactful. Mavericks are actually living for their purpose. They're living to create this mission that they see in their mind, their vision, and make it a reality. And so often we are overwhelmed. Every maverick is overwhelmed at times. And the reasons for that is that no one's done what we're trying to do before, not exactly the way we're trying to do it. We have a vision, we have an idea of what we want to see happen, but we don't know necessarily all the steps that are going to be necessary to make it happen. And often we don't have people to actually tell us or guide us. That's why we're doing something disruptive. We're doing it for the first time. So just the nature of being a disruptor means that we're going to be overwhelmed at times. Add to that we, in some areas, are very disruptive. And then in other areas, we're still kind of complicit with what we've been taught either by our parents or teachers or society, whatever it is. Every single human being has this challenge. There's no one that's immune to it. So what happens is we may have this really bold idea, but then there's another part of us that says, well, okay, that's a great idea, but have you thought it through? What are the risks involved? What, are you going to calculate? And it just starts asking a whole bunch of questions that you genuinely don't have an answer for, because your bold idea, you don't have a precedent for. It's true, you can go research precedents, but often the best ideas are not coming from someone else's creation, they're coming through you. They're a creation that you've been endowed and blessed to bring into the world. So how do you deal with the overwhelm? How do you deal with the concern between how much time is this taking? Where's the return on investment on that time and effort or money or what energy, whatever it might be? And how do I stay true to this? Or is this something that I shouldn't be doing? Is this something that's too early for me to be doing? All these questions can create an incredible amount of overwhelm, okay? Because it's more than just your usual of, oh, this seems like it's big. It's like, I don't even know how to break it down into anything smaller because I don't actually know how, right? Kind of building the plane as you fly it. So how do we stay innovative, creative, sharp, at the leading edge of ideas that are really going to propel humanity forward, and at the same time keep ourselves sane and feeling centered and being able to execute on things one at a time? Well, how we do that is by understanding where our priorities are being set from. So if all of our priorities are being set from an internal place, the likelihood of us having true overwhelm is small. Okay, let me say that one more time. If your priorities are being set from an internal place, the likelihood of having true overwhelm is small. Why is that the case? Because our eyes can only focus on one or two things at a time, right? We can't, no, one thing at a time, right? We can't focus on this and then on this and then on that. We got to only focus on one thing at a time. Same thing with hearing, same thing with all of our senses. Does it mean that we can't process one set of data while focusing on another? No, we can to a degree, but definitely that's a back burner process. It's not something that we can do some hardcore brainstorming or innovating with if we are not actually giving it our full attention, Okay. So I want you to think of it like yourself, your body, your being is a container. And if all of your priorities are coming from within that container, you'll never have to worry about overwhelm. Where we get into overwhelm is when we have a whole bunch of things that are all kind of competing for our attention because they're not all coming from within our own container. They're coming from outside the container. They're coming from our clients, our friends, our family, society, a law. All of these external pressures or expectations or demands or requests or whatever you want to call them are vying for our attention. So then we start to have multiple hot potato priorities because now they're not all coming from within, they're coming from outside. Now, does that mean that we should just ignore the law, ignore your spouse? Of course not. What we do need to do though is it's kind of like a reconciliation process, right? I have this priority and I have this priority. And both of them require, right now, seem to be number one priorities, or maybe it's three things or four things. Well, in truth, something is in conflict. So we've got to analyze, first of all, where's the source? Is it outside of the container? And second of all, like, is it actually aligned with our overall goals? When you go through that for all four things, right? And it's really simple, right? You take the first two things and you compare, right? Is it coming from inside or outside? And is it aligned with my goals or not? You look at the two, whichever one is yes, more of it is getting the yes answer more, that's your true priority. Then you go through the next two items, and then you go through the next two items, and then you'll have your order. So there'll be one priority, and then a second, and a third, and a fourth. Often, when you do this process, you'll come to find that maybe one or two of those priorities aren't even really your priorities at all, and you can either delete them or give them to somebody else to deal with. And then on the flip side, you might also say, okay, this is important, and yes, I do need to do this, but it doesn't have to be done at this time. In which case, then you might have to go back to someone and renegotiate with them what your deadline is. All of this takes courage. It takes courage to look at yourself. It takes courage to look at the source of your priorities. And it takes courage to say, you know what, I was wrong. I agreed to something that I actually realistically couldn't do. So I need to renegotiate this, because there's a possibility that your boss might fire you. There's a possibility that the client might fire you. There's a possibility that your spouse could be angry with you. There's a possibility of all kinds of things happening, right? So it takes courage to renegotiate. But guess what happens when you do that? Huge sigh of relief. All that weight on your shoulders lifted off, so that you can truly give attention to the things that truly deserve your main focus in that moment. Does that make sense? I hope this is ringing true for you, and if so, please let me know in the comments. This is one aspect of time management. I actually want to say something about time that I've noticed. I've noticed a lot of people rushing. I had somebody rush me yesterday. I don't like being rushed. I used to be the queen of rushing, and sometimes I still have to catch myself at times going back to those old patterns. But rushing implies that there is some horrible thing that happens on the other side of someone else's priority. I kid you not, every single time it's about someone else's priority. Does that mean that you should just go late and not care about what people think for everything? No. But once you start to reassess things and focus inward in your inward container instead of outward, allowing outward expectations to drive your pace, your focus, your power, what you will come to find is that a lot of things that were creating stress in your life naturally dissipate on their own. They just start to go away. And you start to build momentum and having clarity as to what you can actually do really well. So that means that you have less overwhelm, less stress, less demands on you, and then you're feeling happier about the things that you do. This all relates back not necessarily to time management, which is what a lot of people think about in our field, but to time relationship, what your relationship with time is, and how you allow others to influence it. Because time is a man made concept, by the way. Time is completely man made, so it's completely malleable and manipulatable. It is not a universal constant or anything like that. This is something that humans have made up. So I just want you to think about these things. I know I've just dropped several little mini bombs there, but this is something that is really important because people are always thinking about how can I manage my time better? How can I, get myself into a flow state? And you can't get there from here. What you need to shift first is how you're allowing your priorities to be made, how you are allowing others to influence the way that you relate with time, and how you are actually allowing others' rules to influence your feelings of success or lack thereof. That is the foundation upon which you can have a really powerful conversation about overwhelm, priority setting, and time management. See, all of these things are what I like to go deeper and find. And so, if you know that this is something that you would like some support with, some personalized, not generic, personalized support with, send me a message. I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you about that. All right, so that's it for today. I'm looking forward to seeing your comments. I see one comment here, negotiation is powerful. Yeah, renegotiating your deadlines is a powerful thing. And enjoy the rest of your week. Much love. Bye.